Welcome to Manifest the Big Stuff, your weekly intentional manifesting reminder and check in, where I share cutting edge tips and techniques to help you take advantage of new paradigms from quantum physics. Paradigms powerful enough that you can actually manifest your most important desires. As promised in last week's episode, today is all about my most significant manifestation to date. In 2019, I used my unique belief-raising process, made famous in my Why Quantum Physicist book series, to manifest a huge desire, a six-figure business. Today, I'm going to share exactly how to use my belief-raising process. I'm also going to describe how I manifested an even more exciting six-figure business than I originally imagined. And you won't want to miss it when I give 3 specific examples of how my belief-raising process changes your reality in real time. I'm Greg Kuhn, the Law of Attraction science guy, author of the aforementioned life-changing Why Quantum Physicists book series, and your host. I'm very excited to share about how I manifested such a huge desire. Let's jump right in. As promised in my previous episode, during my explosively creative conversation with Michael Morgan, today is all about my most significant manifestation to date, the intentional manifestation of my desire to build a six-figure business, a journey that officially began in 2015 when I began using my belief-raising process on that desire, and took form in 2016 when I became the leader of DuPont Manual High School's fledgling alumni foundation called the Crimson Mission, and culminated in 2019 with the ribbon cutting of the Honeycomb, an almost $350,000 21st century project-based learning lab that the Crimson Mission built inside DuPont Manual High School in partnership with Kindred Healthcare and the Jefferson County Public School System. I refer to this manifestation as my most significant yet because of its scope and size, because of how completely public-facing the manifestation was, and because of how transparent I was about what I was doing, how we were doing it, and why. And it all started with my belief-raising process, the very same belief-raising process I write about in my Why Quantum Physicist book series. My belief-raising process is tailor-made for long-absent desires, big, important desires, which have been painfully absent from your reality. This process is known and practiced by intentional manifestors who truly want results, and it's been shared with me that it's also used in therapeutic settings. My belief-raising process is how I got out of over $1 million in debt in 2006, escaped certain bankruptcy, and avoided 14 foreclosures. Here's the background to this story. By 2015, my life as the Law of Attraction science guy was going well. I had published 6 books about the law of attraction and intentional manifesting. I received emails and letters from psychologists, counselors, and therapists who were using my books to augment their work. I even got an email from a man who found one of my books in his prison library, and he told me how much it had changed his life. I was a sought-after speaker and trainer. I was doing law of attraction coaching. My penny experiment was featured in Pam Grout's New York Times bestseller, E Cubed. I felt really good about where I was, and to top it off, I was going to be able to retire from the Jefferson County public school system in 7 short years, after which I would get to be the law of attraction science guy full time. So why not, I figured, get a jump start on 2022, my retirement year? Why not manifest a business right now in 2015? I had no idea how to manifest that, but I knew what to do. Use my belief raising process on my desire to manifest a 6-figure business. And it worked. Before we get into the manifestation of that desire, however, let's discuss my belief raising process. You should be using it too, frankly, because of how thoroughly it aligns you vibrationally with your desires, especially with desires that have been painfully absent from your reality for too long. All it requires of you is radical self-honesty, persistence, and patience. The quantum field handles the rest by continuing to manifest your reality by reflecting your beliefs back to you. The quantum field simply does what it always does. It partners with your new beliefs and reflects that new version of reality back to you. Using my belief raising process is not rocket science. Here's how you do it. Number 1, ask yourself, how do I really feel about the absence of this desire? How does its absence make me feel about me, who I am, and my life? Write all that down. It will not be pleasant. In fact, this will be like an emotional vomit. Be radically self-honest in your writing. Not to beat yourself up, however. Do it so you can learn. You do not ever need to share any of these answers unless you decide to. Everything here can stay private. So do not hold back. Be radically honest with yourself, honoring how you truly feel about this desire's absence. The disappointment, doubt, anxiety, inadequacies, worry, however it pains you. These painful feelings are already inside you. You're not creating them by writing about them, nor are you solidifying them. If anything, you'll be setting them free. If those types of feelings weren't there, you wouldn't be using this belief-raising process in the first place. So find them, look them in the eye, and write about them. Write about how you feel, no matter how painful. Number 2, take what you wrote and find a match for your current feelings on my emotional reference chart, a chart of ascending emotional states inspired by Esther Hicks and Abraham. You can download my emotional reference chart for free by visiting my website, whyquantumphysicists.com. Do that right now, in fact, as long as you're not driving your car, so you can read it while listening to this podcast. And here's a pro tip while you're doing that. Always look up the definitions of the emotions on the emotional reference chart. Don't assume you know what any of them mean. Being certain about the definition of an emotion will add a layer of clarity to this process. Number 3, still using my emotional reference chart, find the very next highest feelings or emotional perspective. For example, if you identified your current feelings or current emotional perspective as despair and worthlessness on my emotional reference chart, you're going to next look at grief and desolation, because That's the next highest emotional perspective on the chart. Examining my emotional reference chart, you'll easily notice a pattern, by the way. There's hardly any improvement at all between the different emotional perspectives. That is intentional. It allows you, and actually forces you, to remain honest enough about how you really feel every step of the way for your subconscious to hear and adopt each new emotional perspective. Every step of the way, those minute improvements make your new emotional state believable to your subconscious. So it actually allows your beliefs to change in accord. And that's why my belief raising process works so well. Even though the improvements are minute, they are improvements. Even though each uptick is only slightly more aligned with your desire, it is more aligned. Because of those incremental improvements, your subconscious allows itself to be communicated with. It doesn't care that your new emotional state is a little more empowering than the previous one, a little more aligned with your desire. Your new feelings are not a quantum leap in positivity, so your subconscious adopts them. And as long as you continue to speak its language, your subconscious is happy to keep taking one baby step of improvement at a time. Once you've identified that next highest emotional state, look up the definitions for those feelings, then answer the same questions from before. Only this time, answer them from the perspective of that next highest emotional state. To illustrate, let's say I started at the emotional state of despair and worthlessness. I would answer those questions next from the perspective of grief and desolation. What is it like to feel grief and desolation about this desire? What's it like to feel grief and desolation about me, who I am, and my life because of this desire's absence? As before, write from that perspective with radical self-honesty, knowing you never have to share anything you write. Number 4, now manifest your desired reality from that new emotional perspective you wrote about. You will see and experience your version of reality differently, slightly more aligned with your desires. Give it time. Let your new understanding of your absent desire be reflected back to you in your reality. Allow your new understanding to shape what and how you see and experience this part of your reality. And let your new understanding inspire your actions and behaviors in this part of your reality as well. It usually takes me 1 to 3 days before I am comfortable manifesting this part of my reality from the new emotional perspective. It's not a massive improvement after all, so it's not usually terribly challenging. Number 5, find the next highest emotional state on the emotional reference chart and repeat the process. Until, of course, you get to the top of the emotional reference chart. Getting to the top of the chart does not manifest your desire for you. It aligns you vibrationally with your desire, which makes manifesting your desire a downstream process. Feeling a higher emotional state about your desire in and of itself isn't the act of manifesting your desire. Not even feeling the highest emotions on the chart, love and ecstasy. But it always makes the act of manifesting your desire as likely as possible. Vibrationally aligning yourself with your desire is as important as filling your pool with water before you swim. On this particular use of my belief raising process, my first entry is dated May 4th, 2015. I'm holding that journal in my hands, actually, as I share this with you. I did not start on that day on purpose. May 4th just happened to be the day I said, yes, I'm doing this. But what a direct message of encouragement from the quantum field. May the 4th be with you. Regarding my desire to manifest a six-figure business, I began at the emotional perspective of anxiety and fear. Afraid that I couldn't manifest a six-figure business because I was clueless, like an imposter or a child. Once I identified anxiety and fear as my starting point on the emotional reference chart, I then wrote about my desire for a six-figure business from the next highest emotional perspective of anger and blame. And after that writing, I started manifesting my desire from the new perspective of anger and blame. I manifested or lived my way into that next highest emotional perspective, which was relatively easy considering anger and blame wasn't much of an improvement over anxiety and fear at all. And I kept writing and manifesting my way into new emotional perspectives, one tick up the chart at a time. Each tick up so gradual in its positivity and self-empowerment that it never spooked my subconscious. My beliefs about manifesting a six-figure business grew, just like leading a wild rabbit to your porch by laying out a piece of bread a few inches closer to it each day. By August, I had written my way to the top of the emotional reference chart. I was in vibrational alignment with love and ecstasy regarding my desire for a six-figure business. Being in vibrational alignment didn't manifest the desire for me, but it put me in the best possible position to do that. I was now seeing and experiencing this part of my reality through that energy state. In my new reality, I saw and understood opportunities that I couldn't before. In fact, in 2019, when my manifestation of a six-figure business finally and officially culminated, it happened in a way that I couldn't or wouldn't have predicted in 2015. Because I couldn't see or understand reality in a way that allowed me to see and understand those opportunities that arose, nor to manifest it. Not yet. Here's how it happened. There are no such things as coincidences. Coincidence is the label we slap on an unexpected, aligned experience of reality. An experience you didn't know you were ready to have, being mirrored back to you by the quantum field. In the fall of 2015, two parents of DuPont Manual High School, Sandra Wojak and Diana Tafaro, were taking action on a bold, audacious, and needed initiative. Before I go any further, I need to pause and note that I don't have time to do a thorough history here today, nor do I have time to name all the names that need to be recognized. This is going to be a snapshot of this manifestation. These two parents started a nonprofit fundraising alumni board at DuPont Manual High School, just like private and parochial schools have, called the Crimson Mission. Now, every student in every school needs more than what public funding can provide, and DuPont Manual is no different. With 5 world-class magnet programs, public funding simply isn't enough to provide the world-class educational experiences its students need. And there wasn't a single public school in Kentucky doing it. DuPont Manual would be the very first. The Crimson Mission needed powerful advocacy and leadership. And by that spring, I had become its executive director, responsible for shaping it and building it into the fundraising powerhouse DuPont Manual needed it to be. I loved the work, and I was good at it. As the executive director, I helped grow the Crimson Mission from a fledgling organization in 2015 into a six-figure business, as evidenced by the almost $350,000 honeycomb lab we built with our partners in 2019. Recruiting and working with some amazing people allowed the Crimson Mission to breathe life into some capital projects during my first 3 years of leadership. Projects such as helping build the Manual Achievement Center, a modern learning and tutoring facility specifically designed to improve the academic performance of all Manual students. Then, in 2018, the Crimson Mission partnered with Kindred Healthcare, a Louisville-based Fortune 500 company, to build a one-of-a-kind, first-of-its-kind, high-tech, project-based learning lab inside DuPont Manual High School. And in September 2019, the Crimson Mission held the grand opening of the Honeycomb. An almost $350,000 project was brought to fruition by the Crimson Mission via its partnership with Kindred Healthcare and the Jefferson County Public School System. A few weeks before that grand opening, it hit me. The Crimson Mission is the six-figure business. I had manifested my desire. Not in a way I imagined I would back on May 4th, 2015. This was even better. This six-figure business directly benefited a huge number of people. The students and staff got the honeycomb to use and enhance their educational experiences, and the honeycomb cemented the Crimson Mission as part of DuPont Manual's future. And on another note, this would be part of my legacy after 21 years working for DuPont Manual High School. The Crimson Mission would be my handprints in the cement of Manual High School. At the Honeycomb's grand opening, we held a big press conference. Local news channels and newspapers were there to cover it. Our VIP guests for the press conference included Ben Breyer, CEO of Kindred Healthcare and a Crimson Mission board member, Greg Fisher, Louisville's mayor, David James, president of Louisville's Metro Council, and Marty Polio, the superintendent of the Jefferson County Public School System. My wife, Shawn, one of my biggest advocates, told me a couple days before the event that she thought it should be me up there in front of the cameras at the press conference. I told her that I understood what she meant and how much I appreciated her thoughts, but I also laughed and said, "Honey, if it was me up there in front of the cameras instead of those luminaries, it would mean the honeycomb wasn't nearly as big of a deal as it is." One of the best things about my belief-raising process is that you don't have to wait until you get to the top of the emotional reference chart to manifest your reality differently. In fact, my belief-raising process changes the reality you manifest right from the start, because each improvement in your emotional perspective is slightly more empowering, and it will reflect a new version of reality from the quantum field. A new version of reality slightly more aligned with your desire. For example, to manifest a six-figure business, I had to learn to see and understand myself and the rest of my reality differently. That's why I was writing myself up the emotional reference chart. Here's a specific example of that. Let's say that how I feel about my desire for a six-figure business is worry and nervousness. I'm worried I won't be able to do this because I've never done it before and I don't know how. And I'm nervous I will find out I'm not actually capable or good enough. That's what is being reflected back to me by the quantum field. Not close to my desire at all. The next highest emotional perspective on the chart is frustration and aggravation. When I write about my desire from this new emotional perspective, I'm frustrated that I have so much to learn and that I have to learn new things in the first place. And I'm aggravated that I have to give better effort at doing these new and unfamiliar things. And now this becomes what is being reflected back to me by the quantum field. The results in my reality are still far from good, but I'm engaged in the solutions a bit more by that perspective. It's a little more positive and slightly more aligned, even though it hasn't become what we would call traditionally good. And my reality will reflect those slight improvements. Here are two more examples of how the emotional reference chart works, of how it allows you to manifest an improved version of reality well before you get to the good feelings. Let's take something that's bad for virtually every human, death. Maybe when writing about it, you learn that death is bad for you because of the regret you might have over dreams and ideas you never followed through with. That emotional state matches doubt and pessimism on the emotional reference chart. Now, looking at the next highest emotional state, you're going to find that it's worry and nervousness. From the emotional perspective of worry and nervousness, death is bad because you're worried it will be an end to this amazing adventure. You're nervous that the opportunity to be alive, to be a human being in 3D time-space will be over. From either of those two perspectives, death is still bad. It's still the worst. But can you see how that new emotional state of worry and nervousness actually allows a perspective that is a little more empowering? Not a quantum leap, but growth that will be reflected in the reality you experience. Finally, let's look at being taken advantage of, something that is also going to be universally experienced as bad. When you write about being taken advantage of, maybe it's bad for you because it means you're stupid. You're a sucker getting played. That matches the emotional state of pensiveness and melancholy on my emotional reference chart. The next highest emotional state on the chart is introspection and contemplation. And looking at taking advantage of from that perspective, you might say that being taken advantage of is bad because you made the mistake of overlooking red flags. You ignored them. That's still bad, but that perspective is more empowering than your previous one. In each of these examples, you created a little more agency for yourself. You created a little more space for you to operate and for you to be involved in the solution a little bit more. Each small gain up the emotional reference chart does produce a slightly more aligned reality. And each small gain adds up over time. Start using my belief-raising process today and watch your reality change right in front of your eyes. And now, my quantum tip. A brief, powerful takeaway that you can employ in your life right now. Have you ever beaten yourself up? Sure, who hasn't? But have you ever wondered who is being beaten and who is doing the beating, and what good is supposed to come of it anyway. You wouldn't help anyone else succeed by beating them because it's a terrible method of helping. So don't ever do it to yourself. Your time is precious, and I'm grateful you shared some of it with me today. I work hard to ensure Manifest the Big Stuff is worth your time. And if I've been successful with that today, please tell a friend about Manifest the Big Stuff and recommend they listen. And please help me stay in contact with you by downloading a free copy of my foundational introductory book called How Reversing 7 Words Can Change Your Life. Come to my website right now and download it, just like you did with my emotional reference chart. whyquantumphysicists.com. I'll never share your email, and I'll make sure to keep the lines of communication open between us. We is always more powerful than me. Thank you for adding to our we today. Let's get together again real soon.